Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire and the SBN Small Business Network podcast. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we are joined by a very special guest. She is the founder of Bat Out of Hell, Miss Hillary Spiritos. How you doing today, Hillary?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to speak with you.
Hey, it is my pleasure. When I saw what your mission was and like who your mission is geared towards helping, I'm like, man, this is somebody I really want to talk to because not too many people are going after that niche.
Oh, amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I think so. My company, Bat Out of Hell, I work with young adults, and I think so often young adults can be belittled and talked down to and dismissed. And I think that that's irresponsible and discouraging. And I think as young adults are the stewards of our planet, and they are the people that are going to take care of the planet and make it what it is in the future. And it's really important to make sure that they are supported and that they know someone's in their corner, and to help them gain the skills and tools to live their fullest, most authentic life.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So the number one question the audience probably wondered, who is Hillary Spiritos?
Whoa. that's a that's a large question. Um, so I am a relatively young woman myself, and I point that out because I think it's important to note that I operate in this unique in between space that's not family, friends, or a therapist, and instead I'm a near peer who has gone through what they're going through and can help them navigate their own path. So as well-meaning as hopefully those groups are, I think it's really important to have someone that you can connect with on a different level and in a different way, and that you can feel open and okay with being open and honest with. Um, I have worked both in freelance and in the corporate sector before starting my own business. And I have navigated the work world, the romantic world, and all of these things in the world of today, which is really important because the world of today is vastly different than the world that we have lived in previously. Um, I am just really obsessed, kind of, or like fed by working with this group of people. I think young adults are like incredibly resilient, or potentially incredibly resilient, and um incredibly really important people in the world. And I think it's really important for young adults to recognize who they are, what they want to bring to the world, what their place in the world is, how they can bring their fullest, most adult, authentic selves to their lives and build the life that they want. And that's what I'm hoping to help people do. Or that's what I do help people do.
Amazing. So what kind of inspired you to go down this path of starting Bat Out of Hell and start working with young adults as a pathfinding coach?
Absolutely. That great question. So I have always known that I wanted to be a advocate or guide or mentor or someone like that for young adults. I've always known that I wanted to be that for other people. And then when I was at Duke University in undergrad, I was an RA, and I just really loved working with young adults and speaking with them about who they are and what they wanted and what they valued and what they wanted to do in their college experience and beyond, and all of those questions. And I just realized that that is kind of where I thrive and where I get my energy from, and people respond well to it. And then when I was an academic advisor at NYU and Northeastern, I continued in with those conversations working with young adults, and again realized that there was this real need for young adults to have someone that they could speak to and listen to and help them, guide them on their path, that wasn't telling them what they should or shouldn't do, but help them listen inward, like look inward and listen to what they wanted themselves and figure out what they wanted. So during the pandemic, I opened up Bat Out of Hell because I had students and past students and family friends and people from all areas asking to speak with me. And I realized that again, yeah, there is this gap in the market. There is this need for this person who is not family, friends, or a therapist, and who goes deeper than other coaches. And I think that's the space I occupy. And I've been working at Bad Out of Hell for, well, it's been 5 years, officially 5 years now, though I've definitely been doing this type of work for a lot longer.
Awesome. What kind of services do you provide then to your clients?
Yeah, so I specialize in one-on-one coaching, but we also absolutely have group coaching, and I give workshops on various topics such as failure and resilience, and navigating your study abroad experience and moving abroad, and imposter syndrome and cultivating your own voice, and creating your narrative, as well as kind of interview skills or public speaking. I kind of run the gamut of workshops, and kind of all of those things, what they have in common is getting to the core of who you are and building the skills and tools to execute the steps to move forward in your life and build and create the life you want. And so I I really just enjoy helping young adults create the life they imagine, and also imagine the life they want to create, because so often I feel that people don't even know where to begin, or don't even know how to begin to figure out who they really are or what they really want outside of the noise that society or their parents or whatever, outside of what they've learned as young adults. I mean, what they've learned as young children. So I think it's really important to kind of break through all of those messages.
Yeah. So, what seems to be the biggest challenge that's holding them back?
That's a really interesting question, because obviously it's different for everybody. And so that just depends on who you're talking to. But there are a variety of things. There can be this fear that, like, more perhaps psychological fears, or that could be they feel like they're behind already. They feel like they're never going to get to where they want to. Everybody knows what they want and they don't know themselves. Um, this this fear that they just can't, they're not capable, or that they're not going to be successful, or they're paralyzed by choice. There's also, I think it's really important to recognize that a lot of these fears and blocks come from the messages we've gained as children. So whether that is the message that you received that anything that doesn't make you money is not good enough or not successful, and so in that way that's going to block when you come up and you realize that, oh, I want to be in an industry that might not value money in that way. Then you're going to engage with blocks when you try to engage or with that, or you decide that you're not even going to do that, and then recognize that you're unhappy. That's just one example of that. I also think there are real life, real world examples of blocks, such as like social media and the comparison culture causes blocks. The COVID pandemic has its own resulting blocks. Helicopter parenting has its own resulting blocks. The broken systems in the world of today have resulted in different blocks. So I think it's really important to understand how to navigate all of this and look inward for the answers of how you want to navigate, rather than looking for the answers in what other people say you should do or what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. You talk about that noise a little bit and the pressures created by some of that noise from social media, parents, friends, all that. What's your best advice for turning that noise and just like looking inward to find your voice and what's your own purpose?
So that's really challenging, right? And especially if you haven't developed that skill and tool, then it's going to take time to develop. So some people have developed it a little bit more, and some people are just starting, and that is kind of more like a whisper of what you want, or that internal voice that's saying, "Oh, this is maybe what I want to be doing, but I don't feel like I can do that or can't even hear that little voice." So what's important is to really take time and really like cut out all the noise, and I mean that literally. So like take time and either sit in silence or just like listen to music and just think about, if you could have anything, if you could spend your time in any way, if fear was not an issue, if you didn't care what other people thought, if you weren't worried about being embarrassed, what would you want to be doing with your time? What would you want to be doing with your life? What impact would you want to have on the world? And just like think about it as with as little judgment as possible, right? Or without any judgment. And don't reach out and ask other people for their like opinions on your answers. Think and look inward and really take the time to do that, and it will ruminate over time. And I also think it's important to register that you can look on social media, but really be conscious of that fact that like it's a projected reality. It's some other person's life has no bearing on your life and your happiness. In fact, actually just comparing yourself will make you unhappy. Like be really conscious of what you're internalizing so that you are aware that it's not your own voice.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me to this next question with how do you get them to distinguish between their dreams and like the ones placed on them by their parents?
So that's a really great question. So it generally comes out in conversation. So a client will be talking, and at one point they'll say something like, "Oh, well, that's not good enough," or that's not what successful looks like, or that I can't do that, or they'll in some way they'll indicate a block. And so, as I said earlier, those blocks kind of indicate themselves that something is a little deeper is going on, something that's a little bit in their subconscious is being triggered, and they might not even know what that is, but we want to ask questions like, is that true? Where does that come from? What was your relationship with your parent? Like how did you figure out that might have been the case? When was the last time you felt that way? When was the last time you felt like you were really excited to do X? Like we want to kind of unearth this stuff, because so much of this, like our joy, our zest for life, our curiosity, all of that is housed within our inner child, but so is our fears, anxieties, and insecurities, and they are all mixed together, and you can't have one without the other. So you need to get a little bit deeper to unearth your curiosity and your passion and what you want, and maybe the things that you want to do are actually the things that you loved doing as a kid. But when you come against that, when you recognize that, you're going to come upon your fears, insecurities, and anxieties. And so when you come against a block, you know that you've hit something really interesting.
So how do you get them to navigate those blocks and, like you said, get over their own fear and insecurities?
Yeah, so it's different for everybody. And so what might resonate for one person might not resonate for somebody else, but it's really getting to the root of, is that true? Like, have you had that conversation with somebody? Is that really what happened? Is that really what you believe? Have you had the experience of that happening? How does that serve you to feel that way? Does that impact your life in a negative way? Does that help you get what you want? Are you judging yourself based on something external? Like it's really just trying to navigate through those questions and get to the realization that actually what is there is your own insecurities or feelings and anxieties. And until you get to the root of those, you are going to be at the mercy of them. And once you become conscious of them, you will be able to like when you get triggered, I don't want to bow down to these feelings. I don't want to live my life from this state, like from this place. I don't want to live my life in a place from fear. Like this thing that I want to do is really nerve-wracking and scary, but it's also really exciting. And I want to be able to engage with that and do it. So it's a conscious effort for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had any like tips like with like visualization or like affirmations or anything like that to try to
Sure.
help clear with them blocks.
Yeah, sure. So there are definitely tips and tricks, but again, it's really what resonates with you. So absolutely, there are tips and tricks that you can find, but the question is like, it's all about stopping the stories that you're telling yourself. So whether that is practicing reminding yourself that you're capable or that you're smart or that you're able to do the thing, whether that's reminding yourself that, like, when a thought comes into your mind, to actually say stop and rewire it and reroute it. I think it's really important to literally talk to yourself. I tell, if you're not talking to yourself, you're missing a trick. And I also think it's really important to recognize and remember precedents. So, like, times that you have gone outside of your comfort zone previously and tried something new and survived and thrived, and then recognize that obstacles are really just possibilities for growth. For sure, there are all of these tips and tricks.
Yes, I love it. So you talk about the 20s and 30s being a pivotal chapter of life. Why do you believe this so much?
So, there are many reasons for this, but I do think that for a long time, since we're children, we all, as a generalization, but it is true that we go along the track of all doing the same things at the same time at the same pace. And then in university, that kind of, those tracks fork off and you end up doing different things and from your friends, and that can be really frightening and overwhelming and scary. And then even after university, that happens even more, and that can be again frightening and scary and overwhelming. But it's also a really dynamic time that is full of opportunity and exploration and questions and trying to figure out who you are without somebody telling you, take this class, do this thing, do this activity, like, and without feeling like you need to be on pace with everybody else around you. So it's being in your 20s and 30s is a really dynamic time. It's also a time that is just like no other, in that it really allows time for exploration, in that you can always change and you can always pivot, and I've pivoted multiple times in my life, and you should always be reflecting and thinking, is this what I want to be doing right now? But your 20s and 30s are a real time when you can really be figuring things out and trying new things, and you're not too far along to feel stuck. You're just starting out in ways so you feel like you're gaining skills, but you also have the agility to move around. So it's just a really interesting time. Also, I think it's really important to recognize that while you can always change your mind and change direction, it is much harder and much more disheartening to look back when you're older and realize that you were living someone else's life, or not living the life you want to be living. And I think it's really pivotal to kind of start your life in a way that you, or not start your life, but like start your journey and get off on the foot that you really want to be on, and not waste too much time. Let's not say waste, but like, let's not take too much time doing something you don't want to be doing.
I love that perspective. Like, I don't think a lot of people think of it like that.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to get outside of the messaging that we're often told, which is maybe really directional. So, like, do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and
Yeah.
then that happens, and that's what everybody does. I think it can be really hard to open up perspective or redirect or change your ideas or your thought process. It's all really hard. But I think it's really important to recognize that it's not like there's one path and, like, we all should be on it, or that if you're not on that traditional path, then you're doing something wrong. Like, we're all just on different paths trying to figure it out. And there's no right or wrong answer. There's just, are you doing what you want to be doing at the time? Did you make the decision with the most information that you had at the time? And then after that, you can't do anything more. Like, it's learning to be a little bit kinder to yourself. It's building resilience, self-reliance, self-trust, the ability to tolerate risk, like discomfort and risk taking. All of this stuff is really important to live the life that you want to live and be successful.
Yeah.
whatever that means to you.
So how could somebody reclaim their life at those ages if they like kind of got behind and feel stuck now?
So it's really important to recognize that there's actually no such thing as behind, right? So there's no there's nothing that you can do. It's not too late. Like it's not there's no such thing as behind. There's no race that we're running. There's no winning at the end. Like there's no that's all kind of a mental game that we play with ourselves, but none of that really exists. But if they feel stuck, then I think it's really important to talk to somebody, or at least give yourself time to really think about what you want to be doing and how you want to spend your time. But if you don't really know how to negotiate that, or can't really listen to or hear the answers to that, then maybe it's time to start talking to somebody who can help you.
Yeah. So what are some tools you teach people to help them stay focused and not get so distracted?
So distraction's kind of really interesting, actually. So I think there are all these tips and tricks about like time blocking or making sure that you have like a to-do list and all of these things, and making sure that you stay on task. And I think that that is important, but I also think that it's also really important to get a little messy and try new things and stay out too late and experience life. And so I think it's important that it's we want to have a nice balance. Though if you feel more comfortable with structure, then that's something that you want to have more of in your life. And if you feel more comfortable without structure, then we want to lean into that a little bit. It's living your truth, like, and engaging in the way that makes the most sense for you. As I said, like, everybody is different.
Yeah. So you talk about like how Gen Z is like often overlooked and people kind of label them as lost, entitled. Like, what's your message for other like people for society who believe that?
Yeah, I think in my message for society or the people in society who believe that is, I mean, it's just a short-sighted, kind of nonsensical, dismissive way to look at a group of people or look at people in general. I think there's perhaps it comes into this idea of everyone thinks that they had it the hardest, or everyone or older people might not recognize how Gen Z, or the ways in which Gen Z and millennials are struggling to get a grasp in the world of today and navigate the world of today, in which there are while it is true that it is difficult for every generation, it is specifically, I believe, more difficult for young adults today. Or yeah, more difficult in different ways. Um, and so I don't think it just does a disservice in that it doesn't shed any light on what Gen Z and millennials are dealing with. And it's also just doesn't it doesn't it doesn't help anybody really. But I would say think about how you could help and support young adults in your life and in your companies, and think about what you can learn from them and what you can impart on them. I think it's really also important to recognize that Gen Z and millennials have a lot to learn. And if you are open to imparting wisdom and your knowledge like to them, then they can also teach you so much about the world of today, and it can be a mutually beneficial relationship. But I think just registering that that they're kind of lazy, or that they don't really know what they're doing, or all that kind of stuff is just doesn't really help anybody.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I've worked with a lot of younger adults too. Like, you can kind of see the difference in some of them, but there's a lot of them that are very hard workers and they do have their own
Sure.
set of strengths that like a lot of people don't have? Like, what are some of the biggest strengths you've noticed working with some Gen Zers?
I think what's incredible about Gen Z is that they have and millennials have in, incredible they have the incredible knowledge of mental health. They have an incredible knowledge of um and acceptance of who other people are. There's a lot of empathy involved. There's a lot of understanding about an openness to difference. There's a lot of openness um to just understanding someone's mental health and understanding one's well-being. I think it's really important to have those conversations, and that young adults take that, they believe the importance of that is really like great. I also think that these young people really value authenticity and integrity and honesty, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And I also think it's really important that they recognize that young people really are advocates of themselves, and really believe that this is their life to make what it is, and they're not going to be beholden to the systems that are not serving them, and they're not going to be okay with the "this is how it's always been done" mentality. And I think that's pretty rad, and that's part of the reason why I really love working with this age group.
I love it. What do you try to teach about resilience and like stepping out of your comfort zone?
So, resilience and self-reliance and self-trust and all these things that come from stepping out of your comfort zone are vital, because no matter what happens, whether it's by your choice or something happens in your life, you are going to engage with things that are out of your comfort zone. So, if you don't know how to navigate that, if you feel uncomfortable negotiating things that are outside of your comfort zone, if you never want to engage with difficult or challenging or new things, then you are going to stay inside of your or create a life that is very safe and secure. And that's not necessarily to say that it is um that's okay, as long as it's something that you want. And I would say generally it's not. So it is really important to recognize and to build these these tools, these I'm forgetting the word, but these tools that help you live and create the life you want, because as you go through life, you are going to meet obstacles, things are going to happen. You might lose your job, you might experience a breakup, you might outgrow your job and decide to quit. You might need to move to a different country or city to have a promotion, whatever it might be. And you will need to navigate that new space. And the easier that is for you, the more joy you will have, the bigger your life will be, the more calm you will have, the ability to listen to yourself. It's just really important to recognize that your path is going to be winding, and to recognize that these new opportunities and going outside of your comfort zone are ways to just learn more about yourself and ways to grow. And they're really opportunities to develop yourself. And their life is just a series of adventures, and I think all we want to be doing is growing.
Yeah. I think too that most people don't realize that the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more growth you're going to have. And then, like, forcing yourself to do that when life actually really does hit, it becomes easier to go through them hard times.
Absolutely. And it's a practice. So the more you do it, the more you realize you can do it, and the more you realize maybe you even realize you enjoy doing it. Like for me personally, I realized over my life that I really enjoy doing it. So I seek out opportunities like that. That's not the case for everybody, for sure, but it does become more, I would say, more comfortable. You get better and better at getting through hard things, because hard things will continue to happen, or challenging things will continue to happen, but you get better and better at dealing with them. And that's exactly what you want. Like, at some point you'll realize it's going to be okay, because I'm going to be okay and I'm going to deal with it. And that is exactly what we want.
Yeah. So what advice would you kind of give for somebody like that was fearful of stepping outside their comfort zone and maybe had some imposter syndrome?
So I would definitely ask to like get a little bit deeper into that. And so if the imposter syndrome is, I don't feel like I'm capable, I don't feel like I'm smart enough, I don't feel like that's good enough, or whatever it might be, we want to ask ourselves, is that true? We want to ask, how does that serve us? Like, what is the actuality of how, like, what's going to happen, and talk that through in real time. And it's just recognizing, again, precedents, so that even if you've never really registered them as going outside of your comfort zone, because I do feel like we often don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do, and so we don't always, like, we engage in acts of courage and going outside of our comfort zone all the time, but we don't necessarily fully understand that or accept that. So it's important to take like note of the times that you've done that previously, and that realize that you've gotten through it and survived and thrived, and that you can do it again. And I think it's just also recognizing, like, is this something you find like exciting and nerve-wracking, or is this something that you just don't want to do? And if it's something that you find nerve-wracking and exciting, do you want to be the kind of person that can do that? Do you want to be the kind of person that goes through that? And do you want to do that thing? And if that's the case, then it is reminding yourself that you are capable and wanting to show yourself that you're capable.
Yeah, I love how you touch on that. Are you nervous but excited to do it? Like, that's usually where the magic starts happening. That's where you know you're on the right path.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great thing to note, is that if the path is clear and like easy and straightforward, then it's generally someone else's, because it's already been done. And so if you're walking your own path, no one's ever walked that before. And so it's going to be like winding, and there are going to be like boulders, and there's going to be branches on the ground, and like all these things you have to navigate, and to recognize that that's okay, and that is part of the joy of it, like to really understand life as an adventure and an experience that you're on, is just a really beautiful way to frame it.
Yeah. You've worked in higher education and in the corporate world. How has those experiences helped you now coach young adults?
So that's a really interesting question. I would say being in those spaces, like especially in higher education and in the world of study abroad, which I work in, um, allows me to stay up to date on like what young people are dealing with in today's world, and how they learn and grow and find meaning. And I've also like pivoted, as you've said, in my own life, so that helps me navigate change and guide others in and through it with a perspective and patience that might like that I've gotten by doing various different working in different industries. um and I think on the corporate side, I've gained real world relevance and accountability and a results oriented mindset. So I see clearly the skills that truly matter in the workplace, which are like the soft skills of communication, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. And I still believe that's the case with AI. So I recognize like what I help young people also navigate the trials and tribulations of finding work and pivoting careers and all of that. And I think that my work in the corporate sector, as well as pivoting industries myself, really helps.
How much do you think that maybe social media has affected like the soft skills that a lot of people coming out of college have nowadays?
Yeah. So I think it's really important to recognize that social media is not great. I don't think there are some pros or there are some benefits to it. I think it's important to say that, but I'm not necessarily a big fan of it. I do think that it halts communication and relationship building, and because there's really no substitute for in-person like contact. I also think social media can limit empathy. um I think there are a lot of accounts that are about connection and do create community, but I do think that hiding behind this online facade and avatar, I think can lower our empathy towards other people. And I worry that, yeah, I worry that it stops connection. And I think, let alone like time management, right? Like we're just scrolling through forever and
Yeah.
ever and not really paying attention to even what we're doing. Um, I think I think it has a lot of I think it has a lot of potential negatives, and I think it's really important to get outside and meet people in real life and have new experiences and try new things and get outside of your comfort zone and and not be so focused on not be so focused on what other people are doing, but also not be so focused on yourself and trying to like put so many pictures of yourself on there and not be so focused on like making sure you look great for other people. Um, but I do want to say that I think that young adults, one thing that I'm noticing among young adults is this idea of not wanting to be embarrassed, this idea of like cringe culture and like feeling like they um don't want to show that they're trying or don't want to show that they like if they make a mistake. And I think part of that comes with social media and feeling like they don't want to put themselves out there in a way, and that will cause you to not build some of those soft skills and develop those skills and tools that are needed to execute the steps to move forward in your life. And so it's really important that it's to recognize that it's okay to make mistakes. Nobody's thinking about you in the way that you're thinking about you. Um, and like if someone doesn't like what you're doing, it's a projection from them, but it's also none of your business.
Yeah, I completely agree. Out of the two sectors you worked in, higher education and the corporate world, which one did you like the best and why?
I loved working in higher education, and in fact I still do it. Like I speak to university students all the time. I think this is just an amazing time for young adults, like meaning like in their late teens, early 20s, or and onwards. But if we're talking about the worlds in which I worked, I think that time period of university is just this incredible time of figuring out who you are and what you value and what you want out of your life. And it's just such a dynamic time. And as someone who's worked in university as well as in academics, I don't believe that academics are the most important part of university. I think part of that is just exploring and figuring out yourself and meeting other people. But I think university isn't for everyone. And I'm a full believer in gap years. I'm a full believer in vocational training. I'm a full believer in people. Not everybody needs to go to university. But if we're talking about the worlds in which I've worked, I really did love and do love working in higher ed.
Yeah. So let's say a young person listen here, you hear this probably story all the time. Say someone that's in college right now. The number one thing I usually hear, I don't know what my major should be. I'm undecided. Like, what advice would you give to them, to somebody who felt stuck and didn't know what course to take?
I think one of my first questions would be, what year are they? So if they are a freshman or a sophomore, I would encourage them to take classes in across the board, like encourage them to take classes in all different areas to see what they find interesting, because maybe you come in with this idea that you are going to study this, but if you took a class in this other department, you might actually find that you love it. I think it's really important to figure out, like, what do you want to do in your daily life? So like, do you want to have a career where you sit in front of a computer? Do you want to be outside? Do you want to be talking to people? Do you want to be working in groups? Do you work better off alone? Like, all of these conversations are important when you're thinking about how do you want how do you want to spend your time? What do you want your career to look like? I also think it's important to recognize that most people don't work in the department or industry or whatever that they've gotten their major in. So it's important to pick wisely, because you want to enjoy your time and you want to be excited about your classes. You're obviously not going to be excited about all of them, but it's good to be interested in what you're learning. And ideally it does impact your career, but it's okay also if it doesn't. Um, and so not get too um, obsessive about picking the right choice. It's the question of, are you doing and learning what you want to be learning at the time? And then, don't worry about making the right decision. Make the decision right. Just make the decision. And I think, again, going back to trying to figure out, like, are you taking this or studying this because somebody else said you should? Or are you studying it because you think it's interesting? I have a lot of clients who and met with a lot of people in when I was working in higher ed, who studied business because they didn't know what they wanted to study, or were studying business and didn't know what they want because they realized they didn't even like math and they didn't want to be in that world anyway, or they thought that that's what other people would think was successful. But instead they really wanted to study something else, like in the humanities or in the arts. So I think it's really important to, like, check in with yourself for sure.
Yeah. And I like how you even said there that most people that graduate with a degree don't even like go into that field.
I don't work in that field. Yeah.
I don't either. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's like, that's why I tell everybody, just go develop skills. Go learn and
Yes.
develop more skills along the way. You'll be directed to where you need to go.
Yeah, and I think also within just as a note, because I know we're all up in this AI world, and I think personally, because AI is going to be able to, or potentially going to be able to, do input output very easily, I think what's going to become of value is critical thinking and things, and empathy and relationship building and active listening, and things that people, and like things that the AI can't do. And that comes from learning how to learn and learning how to think and learning how to um, think things through and creative problem solving and all of that stuff. So it's just learn that.
Yeah. How much of a problem do you think AI is going to cause for like the job markets for the younger adults coming out now?
I, can't say for certain. Um, I do think that it is going to be a disruptor, but I also think it could actually be really interesting, because there's a world in which, and I do believe this is the case, I have but who knows, right? I think it's going to make people lean more into the human-centric um, fields and wanting to be more like connected human to human. Um, but I think it's really important to note, like, so many of the jobs that exist today, we never even could think of or know of or have any conception of previous like years ago. So while it might take AI might take away jobs in certain industries, I think there's a potential for it to create jobs in different ways than I or we could even imagine. So, but I think it's going to be a disruptor in one way or the other for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was kind of wondering that myself because you hear some people talk about like, hey, this is going to disrupt a lot of stuff, and other people are just promoting it and like, this is going to be the greatest thing around. So it's kind of hard to tell.
I think I don't love the blindly promoting it. I'm also a big I don't know. I think as someone who really values and loves the human stuff, I think I get a little bit wary of the robots. But you know, I I technology just develops, and so we kind of have to roll with it and figure it out.
Yep. What are your short term and long term goals?
For my company,
Yeah, you yourself and your company.
um, yeah. So short term, I would, and long term, I would love to continue to build my company and build my skills and grow um, and develop. I would also just like to grow and develop in my knowledge and my personal being. I think like my understanding of what success is growth and like and development, personal and professional development. So that is what that is what I want. That is what I value. That is what I want to be doing. Um, I, you know, want to travel to more places. I want to spend time with the people that I love. I want to. I'm. I want to develop who I am and develop my skills in various ways. And I also want to grow professionally.
Awesome. I love your take on that. Like, growth is your definition of success. You don't hear too
Yeah.
many people talk like that. I love it.
Thanks.
What is one book you'd recommend for somebody for like on personal development or upgrading your mindset?
I in an interesting kind of maybe left turn way of answering that question. Um, I think the book The Alchemist is really like something that like I read it when I was in high school and it or middle school, and it really changed the way that I understood how I wanted to live my life and the way that I understood that how the world works, and the understanding that the universe is just conspiring in your favor, and to recognize that you can make your life the way you want to, and even if it doesn't happen right now or look exactly the way you thought or wanted it to look, it can be like just as amazing or even more amazing, but like look a little bit different. um so I think that I would recommend reading that if you haven't.
Okay, awesome. How
Mhm.
can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my website is my website is bat@hell.net, and my TikTok and Instagram are bat.outa_hell, and on both of those ways you can connect with me or DM me, and we can set up a time to chat, and you can learn more about me and the work that I do, and we can see if it makes more sense to keep moving forward, or you can sign up and to like schedule multiple meetings with me and start going right off the bat. Yeah, that's exactly what I would suggest.
Awesome. And I'll leave all that information in the show notes too. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
Um, I would just say that it's important to remember to not judge where you're at and to recognize that we're all just trying to figure it out. So and there's like what even is it anyway? Like there's no answer. There's no great answer. So just be a little kind to yourself, give yourself a little bit of grace while you're trying to figure it out. Um and and this is your life according to you because you're the only one who has to live with your life and no one knows the answers better than you do.
Awesome advice. Final question. Is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with? Or what's one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
I there's so much to say, but I think the first thing that comes to my mind is this mantra, which is don't ever think the rules come from outside of you, which is just this idea that you create your own life. And it is okay to do something different. It is okay to be yourself. It is okay to just listen to who you are and what you want and engage with that. Um, and because these rules that society places, whether it's I'm 26 and I should be doing this right now, or whether it's everybody else is doing this and I'm not, or whatever it is, they're all like fantasy anyway. And they really don't have any bearing on your life. So live your life according to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hillary, thank you so much for coming on here. Like I said, I love your mission and purpose in life. I I think there needs to be more people working with that age range of people.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's what feeds my soul. So I'm so happy to be of service to so many people. And it's just really rewarding when people come back and tell you that like what you've done has just been so helpful. So that's lovely.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on here. I love your mission.
Thank you so much.
Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way you get what you want is to go through the fire.